Welcome back, Global War in 1939. We're going to continue our Axis strategy videos. Today we're looking at Italy. Now, their political situation in the beginning of the game, they're actually not at war with anyone, which is great. Gives you a pretty big advantage knowing that for the entirety of the first round, all the ally nations or any of the ally nations won't be attacking you. So you can feel confident that the units you start the game with of the opening setup are the units you're going to have at the beginning of your turn. So the Italians go last in turn sequence, and then after this, we move on to round two, starting with Germany and going around the table. Now, out of all the Axis nations, the Italians are definitely the weakest, economically, militarily, but they do start with a pretty decent navy. It's a pretty well-balanced navy. Now, your priority, especially the first 3-4 turns, your priority with Italy is to maintain the Mediterranean. You need to have full control of the Mediterranean. You do not want any allied nation vessels in those sea zones whatsoever. You own it, you control it, and it also gives you a little bit of economic boost. It does give you a NL bonus. So you want as much money as you possibly can. The richer Italy is, the better they'll be able to help out their German allies. And you can really view Italy as not really as a major player, a major power, but definitely they're assisting Germany as best they can. And there are a couple of tasks and goals that they are responsible for to ensure a victory for the Axis. Germany and Japan can't do everything. They do need a little bit of help. And your job is Southern Europe. The Mediterranean, Southern Europe, you're tasked with defending, capturing, and everything in that zone of influence. The Germans are busy in France, Russia, the Atlantic, keeping the British and the Americans at bay. If you have a really strong German ally, there should be no need for Italy to be fighting the Americans, which is fantastic. That's what you want. Your main enemy is going to be the UK Commonwealth, and that's the nation you'll be fighting the most. Now, after the first round, you should expect the map or the territories to look something like this. If you're any kind of competent UK player, on your turn, one of the first things you're going to do, you're going to build a minor factory in Cairo. And then you're going to probably annex Greece. And then the UK will get the Greek fleet. They'll get the Greek army. Not a game breaker, but certainly you want that for the UK. It does give you a few dollars, a couple soldiers for free. And it acts as a distraction. Either way, if the UK doesn't take this, which would be a mistake, but if they don't, it's fine, you as the Italian player are still tasked with taking out Greece no matter what. So you're going to take mainland Greece, you're going to take Crete and Corinth. Those are the three territories. Those should be your first priority outside of maintaining the Mediterranean on your first two turns. So, and you also want Alexandria. And the reason why you want Alexandria, because one of the UK's NL bonuses is having or maintaining all their original territory. So you just need to take one out, and they lose that bonus. So it's an economic hit against your enemies. The UK player does start with an infantry here. Now, I've seen plenty of games where this infantry will actually back out into Upper Egypt to help defend Cairo later on in the mid-game. But if they don't move it, or they keep the infantry there, reinforce it, it's fine. Your task is still the same. So for your opening land acquisitions on your first turn, we should be thinking about, you start with 2 transports. One transport should come over here in Sea Zone 42. You're obviously going to bring some war vessels, a battleship, a couple cruisers, destroyers, because more likely, realistically, there'll be a UK fleet in Sea Zone 42. So you're going to take that out. Then you can use your transport to drop off in Corinth and Crete. They're undefended, so they're just walk-ons, and it is worth $2 for you. If you don't take it, you're just leaving money on the table that you desperately need. A really good Italian player by the end of the game should probably be in the. Once you factor in bonuses, you should be making about $50, which is essentially double than your production or your home country production. That's where you really want to be. And any territory that you can take will help you. Even those $1 territories, add enough of them up, and you can really have a big impact in this game. So, Crete, Corinth, Alexandria, that's your opening round. Those are the territories you want to take. Now, it really depends on what the British do, what you're going to do with your navy. Most games I've seen the British come up in Sea Zone 42 because they're going to use a transport to activate Greece, and they want to defend that transport. So they'll bring up a navy, which is fine. You have enough planes, enough ships. You should have no issues of completely eliminating that UK fleet. If they make this move, they're actually doing you a huge favor because it takes a sizable British fleet off the map. There was an aircraft carrier and a series of other vessels that you don't want your enemy to have. So if they make that move, great, take advantage, completely wipe them out. Yes, you will lose a couple of your ships in that fight. However, when you reproduce or produce more vessels, you'll be spawning them right in the Mediterranean, which is great. And when the British want to create more vessels in the Mediterranean, they have to go in Cairo, and this factory can only produce 3 units, and is a limited of what type of units that they can produce. You have a couple of major factories. You don't have that worry. So it's easier in the Mediterranean. It's easier for the Italians to reproduce sunken vessels than it is for the UK. Or if they keep them in Sea Zone 42, that's fine. I would ignore them if they keep them here. Still moving the 42, and then you can still take the islands, still take Alexandria, and then you would worry about Greece on the following turn. Okay? Now, if you got a really friendly German ally, whatever surviving units from the Germany strategy goes in Yugoslavia, they can come in and take a 1-round combat and then retreat to soften up the Greek army, so they won't be attacking. They'll just be set in defensive posture, and then you can come up and clean up in round 2. But certainly these 4 territories should be your first priority. And Greece is part of an NO bonus for the Italians. They do need to control 3 of any 4 of Gibraltar, Marseille, Greece, and Cairo, I believe. So Greece is definitely will help you out in acquiring that. And then your second priority, once you have the Mediterranean under your control, once you have those 4 territories, your next priority should be Gibraltar. This does a couple things. It gives the Italians access to the Atlantic, because whoever controls Gibraltar controls the straits, and only the sea vessels that are friendly with the controlling power can move through. So you want this because it allows the Italians to get into the Atlantic to potentially help out the Germans, seek down and destroy any transport fleet the Americans or the British have. It also prevents the Americans and the British from getting into the Mediterranean, denying you of an extra bonus of income. So this should be another priority for the Italians. And it's far enough away to the UK that they would really need to take 2 turns to reinforce it. So you would see that coming and have time to react. in with whatever force that you think that you may need. Okay, so that is pretty much the two first two turns. This should be your focus. Taking out Greece, Alexandria, Gibraltar. Now, mid game, your focus really has to be Cairo. That victory city in Cairo, that is solely the Italians' responsibility. If they fail to take that, it's not good. They're not doing their part to help out the Axis win the game. Certainly, Germany has enough. They have about 5 victory cities that they need to take. The Japanese has the entirety of the Pacific. They need to take most, if not all, of those victory cities. The only ones that are really off limits to Japan would be Sydney and San Francisco, but the rest are pretty much on the table, up for grabs for the Japanese. So really, as the Italians, you only got to worry about Cairo, which is great. So that leads into the purchase, your opening round purchase for the Italians. You only start with $26, so it's not like you have a ton of money to spend. But what I would do with the 26, now, if you're playing any kind of competent UK player, they're going to put down a minor facility or factory in Cairo. Without them doing that, it really limits the quality and the amount of units the British can put in Africa, because they do start with a colonial factory down in South Africa, but it's kind of far away. It does greatly help them in getting new units on the map, but definitely having a facility in Cairo is pretty much a must for the UK. So in your response, you should also build your own minor factory, and you're going to put that in Tobruk. For the biggest reason that territory starts with a fort, so it gives you extra bonuses to your infantry and gives you extra dice on defense. So that's where you should put it. You should also think about getting a military base to put in one of the other 2 Italian territories. So you can either put it here or here. Now, if you put it here, it's kind of on the front lines to the British. But if you're playing this smartly, you should have a big Italian stack here, so it'll be pretty protected. But if you're worried about the UK coming and capturing it or destroying it on you, you can also place it here. This will also allow you to get infantry on the map closer to the French in Africa, pending how these roll. So if these roll Vichy, that's great. Like if 2 of these rolled Vichy, I'll probably put the military base here. But if any one of these roll Free French, I would put it here to help out the Italians get more units to defeat the Allied French. And then so this would be roughly $15, and then the rest of your income, you can just get cheaper army units. I would suggest prioritizing artillery over infantry, especially on the early game. The Italians are, out of all their army units, they're definitely loaded up with infantry. Not a lot, certainly not as much as Germany, but they do have a fair amount compared to their other capabilities. And they only start the game with 1 artillery piece, which is, you definitely need more, especially if you're playing the Italians. You're going to be looking at cheaper army units like infantry, cavalry, artillery. They're tanks. They start with 2 medium tanks, but they're really expensive, especially their medium tanks compared to other nations. So you're probably not going to buy a lot of them. Definitely a few, but probably not a lot. You would also want to think about getting heavy artillery for the Italians as well. Gives you more dice and gives you more flexibility in your offensive capabilities. But that would be turn 2, 3, and down the road. But for the most part, you are limited on what you can buy. Getting that production facility in this territory is certainly a must. No matter what the UK does, if they don't build their own facility, fantastic. Take advantage. Build your own no matter what. The army base can be either placed here or here. I would do it depending on whatever these territories land as. And we won't know until after the German turn. Same thing with Marseille. If for some reason Marseille goes, because it is a die roll, 50-50 Allied or Axis. If it goes Axis, perfect. You don't have to worry about it. You can move all your units down to Greece as much as you can into Africa and eliminate your enemies there. Now, if it does go pro-Allied, you really need to help out your German ally. This would be taking out Marseille with Trump taking out Greece on your opening round. And you certainly have enough to get in here. You have a couple cavalry, you have a couple fighters, you have a transport that can bring over some more infantry. You certainly have enough to take this out. So that's where I would actually, depending on what this does, is going to change your focus slightly. Vichy, France, then you're going to go right after Greece as much as you can, take out Alexandria. If that goes pro-Allied, then this should be your focus. And then, so just going back to mid to late game, Cairo, when it comes to your Navy purchases that you should think about after the fact, I would highly recommend getting your transport fleet up to at least 5. You start with 2. Buying 3 more shouldn't be too difficult, especially once you get into the $30, $35 range. Certainly, you need whatever production facilities you have down here, max them out no matter what. You always, if you have the facility and the army base, that's 4 units every turn you need to be putting down here. Because the UK is going to be adding 5 every turn. And then you're going to, whatever infantry, artillery that you can't fit in here because there are production limit, produce in Italy, transport them down. If the UK are producing up to 5 in Africa, then you need to be doing at minimum 6. So it'd be 4 here, plus 2 more on the transport. That's at the minimum. Certainly if you can afford more infantry, artillery, medium armor, get those to Africa as fast as you can. Yeah, so the transport fleet, you want up to 5. And you want it hovering. You want to keep your transports and enough material to load onto the transports on any given moment to reach Sea Zone 47. Because if you take Alexandria and then move on to Egypt, remember, the British should have no fleet in the Mediterranean. This should be completely under your control. So you're not going to worry about landings by the UK on your production facility. So you can empty that out to a certain degree, right? But the UK can't. They need to be producing in here to defend that victory city. Let's say, assuming mid-game you have a stack of whatever here, the Italians come out, or the British come out, defeat you. Let's assume this is your biggest army in Upper Egypt. They come out, challenge, defeat you. Now they're sitting with the largest army. However, you're up here in this sea zone, your home sea zone, doesn't matter, but you'll have 5 transports ready to go with 5 artillery, 5 infantry. You should have your planes, fighters, whatever kind of air force you have should be in this territory. And then you can easily come and take Cairo behind them, forcing the UK to have to turn around and fight another battle. So that makes the UK fight go on the offensive twice when you have better odds on defense with infantry versus attacking. So by having the 5 transports, it kind of prevents the UK from even moving out in the first place. That means you're dictating the play of this theater. This part of the map, you're in control of. You are dictating when this battle happens, if it does, if it doesn't, and you can take your time. If that battle happens on round 5, fantastic. You can wait till round 10, round 12. You are in control of this part of the map. You are in control of the theater. Okay? Now, once Cairo is gone, should happen. Once Cairo is gone, that completely opens up Africa. Then the only way for UK to get new units into Africa is to sail down into the Atlantic and drop them off at Morocco. Then they have the journey of moving, and once they're here, you have minimum two turns to react to whatever the landings are here. So that means you have two full productions of 3, 1, and whatever you build here. You should be able to stop that. And if you have a competent German player, the UK are probably not going to do this because they're going to be focusing on getting units into France. But once Cairo is gone, then Africa is opened up. You can bring in your fast movers, your tanks that can blitz, and start taking territories back. These two Italian territories you start down here in the beginning of the game, there's very little you can actually do to save these. These are going to be gone. You're going to lose them. Just know that. The best thing you can probably do is move this infantry into Italian Somaliland, leaving this open and vacant. It's only this territory is only worth 1. This territory is worth 2. So this is more valuable to you, and you want to hold that as longer than you can with this. But expect this to be gone after the second round. If you're lucky, you can probably have it at the third round. Certainly nothing past that. But once Cairo's gone, this will probably be vacant of any kind of force, and then you can easily walk in and recapture it. Taking out Cairo also opens up the Middle East to you. You do have a minor Axis ally here in Iraq. Now, this does have a time frame on it. Iraq is pro-Axis up until turn 7. Past that, the Iraqi will overthrow their government and become pro-Allied. So you want to be aware of that. There are situations where you can take transports, load them up, drop them off in Syria, and then activate Iraq. You can certainly do that, but I wouldn't prioritize that over taking this objective and taking out Gibraltar. That should be your higher priority on your list than getting Iraq. If you do run out of time with trying to deal with Cairo, it does turn pro-Allied. That's fine. I wouldn't change my plans over here. But once Cairo's gone, all this should be opened up to you. Yes, there will be a couple of British soldiers here and there, possibly even the Russians. But at this state of the game, your economy should be probably up to around $40. You will certainly be getting most of your NO bonuses. And then you should be up to $40, $45 around that range. So and also at that point, the Germans should be well into Russia, well into weakening their army. The Russians are probably not going to spend time trying to defend Iran when Moscow is being threatened. So I wouldn't really worry about the Russians. If they do come down, you can deal with it as that comes. But for the most part, this should be anywhere between 1 to 5 infantry UK units. And then you can take out all this with the help of the Germans. The Germans should own these 2 territories at that point, and they could come down and help you out in capturing it. This is also a bonus for the Axis, owning these 4 territories. So you want to take that out. Gives you more money, weakens your enemies. But this would be certainly taking this territory as part of the Italian Empire would definitely be late game. Even taking Cairo will probably be a late game acquisition. If you're very lucky and the UK player just has bad luck on battles, they don't position their armies correctly, or they're out of position, take advantage, take it as fast as you can, hold it. This will also similar to Gibraltar, there is a strait here. Whoever controls this territory will also control the flow of vessels coming in and out of the Mediterranean. And certainly, once you take Cairo, once you take Gibraltar, the Mediterranean will firmly be in your hands, and you should have no worries. Um, Now, that's not to mean once you take Gibraltar, it's yours forever. The Allies can certainly take it back. I've played many games where Gibraltar changed hands 3, 4, 5 times. So you want to take it and keep enough force behind to really make your enemies think about going in there. Um, so that should be it for the Italians. Your main focus, just to sum up, your focus is to assist the Germans any way you can. The Germans should have enough capability to take Russia out without your help, so you don't need to worry about sending soldiers out east. Um, Germany should be strong enough to take care of France on its own, so you don't really need to worry about that unless Marseille goes pro-allied. Then you just need to take care of that on the opening round. Outside of that, you should have no operations in France. Your focus is Northern Africa, Mediterranean, Gibraltar, and eventually the Middle East. That is your zone. That's where you focus. If you can accomplish that, leave the Germans to do their thing. You're certainly far enough away from the Japanese. You won't be helping them. They have to do whatever they're doing. But Northern Africa, Gibraltar, Mediterranean, I can't stress those enough. That is where your focus is. You take Cairo. Once that goes, the rest of Africa will quickly follow in 2, 3, 4 turns and take out or help Germany take out the Middle East. At that point, you may not even need to help the Germans. They can probably take it on their own without you. One more thing, just a little side note. If or when the Germans take out or eliminate Russia, they'll have enough victory cities in Russia that you can activate Spain. Now, once this is activated, so the Germans will do it on their turn, get the right amount of cities to be able to make Spain align with the Axis. The Germans on their non-combat turn can move in one unit, and then they're activated. They'll get a little fleet. Now, I would recommend the Germans not activate Spain. Let the Italians activate it. It's fine. It still goes under German control. Everything still is part of Germany. But the reason why you want the Italians to activate is just based off turn sequence. So the Germans go, the Japanese, all the allies, and then you go last. If the Germans activate this, the Spanish are going to have no chance to move or do anything. They just have to sit there for an entire round, allowing the Americans and the British and the Portuguese, because they'll align with the UK right away. If the Germans activate Spain, once you get back to where these units can actually move, the only territory you're going to have left is Madrid. This is gone. This is gone. You will only have the units of Madrid. Spain will actually fall and be destroyed even before it can even do anything. So if you wait, hold off. Yes, the Germans will lose $3, or I wouldn't say lose. They just won't collect that extra $3. Let the Italians do it. At least this way, it gives these units here a chance to move at least once before the UK and the British jump on Spain. Just a little side tip. All right. Well, other than that, that would be my priorities for Italy. That would be my focus, is to take out those zones. Let the Germans worry about the rest. Let the Japanese worry about the Pacific. Your focus is the Mediterranean. And then once Cairo, Gibraltar is gone, you can certainly, at this point, the only real threat that you would have would probably be the Indian Ocean, whatever vessels that the British have in there. Okay, so then once you've pretty much completed all your goals, Then you can take your navy out to the Atlantic and help the Germans out against the Americans and the British. Start taking some of those convoy boxes and really assisting in lower Atlantic. Or you can even, at that point in the game, a realistic situation is that Brazil is now aligned with the Allies. If you got nothing else left to do, once all of your objectives are taken and secure, not just taken, but they have to be completely secure with no threat of being recaptured, you can probably take a transport fleet, couple battleships, whatever you have on hand at that point, and come down and start thinking about taking out Brazil. But again, certainly that would be very late game. You wouldn't be thinking about that in till turn 13, 14, once the power projection's well in your hand. All right. Well, thank you for watching and have yourself a great day.